Well, as you can see, I'm still moored up here at Ditson, up the River Dart, but today I'm going back down to Dartmouth to pick up an old friend who lives in Kingsbridge at the top of Salcombe Harbour, and he's going to help me navigate to Salcombe. Oh, I'm sorry, I got a bit sidetracked by another steam train. This one is a regular passenger service from Paignton to Kingsware, a journey of some 6 miles or so. It's a lovely trip. Here we are, moored up on the visitor pontoon at Dartmouth, while we pop into town to get some more grub.
We're leaving Dartmouth now, and this grizzled old fool on the stern is Norman, a very old friend, goes way back, and
member of the old kids club.
and he's going to help me take the boat round to Salcombe. However, there's not much wind, so we'll just have to see how it goes. But Dartmouth's just as nice coming out as it is going in. Look at that lovely castle, isn't that terrific? Unfortunately, there's almost no wind at all, and I've just been regaled by stories about Start Point and walks and things by Norm, who's having the time of his life, aren't you?
I am. I've been told to say that.
The motor's doing very well. I mean, there's a start point, we're just going round. The race is negligible, there's nothing really here. And next one is Prawl Point.
Prawl Point.
Prawl Point's the next one we got to. That's Prawl Point. We're just going round.
Yeah.
And, this is the entrance to Salcombe. We're just going in there very shortly.
We met the couple on this little boat when we filled up with water in Dartmouth, and caught up and passed them as we approached Salcombe. With Norm's help, we made a safe passage beyond Prawl Point and round the rocks at the entrance to Salcombe. Once in, we met the harbour master as we progressed up the busy harbour, and he recommended a berth on the visitors' pontoon in the back, further up the harbour.
This is the offshore dinghy park, where it's difficult to find a space, and this behind us is the onshore parking space for dinghies and inflatables.
So you've got the slipway.
And the slipway over there. Let's go and have a look at the slipway as well. We're waiting for the taxi at the moment, but these are all the dinghies being moored here. Everywhere you look, there are dinghies. It's just amazing. Never seen a place quite so busy.
The water taxi is taking Norm and I ashore so that we can catch a bus to Kingsbridge, where Norm and his lovely partner Astrid live. We had a lovely meal, and I got to spend a night ashore with really good company. It's so nice to have friends like this.
You're not seeing at its best here with the mud, yeah. Much nicer when there's tide, yeah.
Well, we've left Salcombe behind and we're heading further west to the River Yealm. Unfortunately, the wind isn't quite what we expected, and we're bashing to windward and it's a bit rough. I'll be tacking back inshore in a minute. There's several boats came out with me and turned back and went back. But Zephyr's okay, and my stomach's just about holding out, so with a bit of luck we'll be alright. We've got reefs in, and it's blowing 22 knots, something like that. It's just the sea that's really causing the problem. A little bit lumpy. And we're going over there somewhere, according to the chart plotter and my chart. The wind's come round a bit, so we're heading almost due north at the moment, straight back to the shore. And it's dropped right down. We're down to 16 knots at the moment, so I've got all the all the genoa out. I'm keeping the reef in the main for the time being. It's such a hassle putting it in if it does pipe up again. But the sea's still a bit lumpy, but this is a much nicer tack than the other one. We're not punching into it quite so hard. So we're fine. And it's sunny. And I've only got a shirt on and it must be really, really warm. Well, this is a bit of a contrast. Wind's down to 14 knots, all the reefs are out, and the wind's coming round southerly a little bit, so we're gradually making our way along the coast without having to tack back out again. So maybe we'll get down to the Yealm without having to tack, you never know. One thing about sailing, it's never the same for long. We're just going across Bigbury Bay at the moment, and shortly we'll be tacking again, and that will take us into the mouth of the Yealm. That rock you can see in the middle there, let me just zoom in. The rock is the leftmost end of the entrance, and this headland is the rightmost or starboard side of the entrance. So we're clipping along quite nicely, doing nearly just over 6 knots over the ground according to the chart plotter, so very good. The point just over there, and we're just going to go round it in a minute and up the river. There's a boat way in the distance, you can just see motoring up right on our ear at the moment. Wind has been in excess of well, it's been up to 30 knots with everything up. We're really pinching her hard actually, so she's not driving all that well, but we're doing about 5.5 knots through the water at the moment, so in very, very windy conditions. We'll be there soon. That's the entrance to the River Yealm over there. Filled the gym now, and everything's come into a bit more sane. We're just jogging along at a knot a bit, so I can find my way in here. Completely new harbour for me, never been in, so taking things a little cautiously. That looks like to be the entrance just over there. I can see a motorboat, and I think that's where we go. I can see, in fact, I can see a mast going up between the two cliffs. So that's the entrance to the River Yealm. There's a lot of boats up ahead who've just taken down their sail, taken down their mainsails, and I think that's probably exactly what I'm going to do very shortly. I'll start the motor and motor up into the wind and take the mainsail down. It's blowing 27 knots. It was 30 just a few seconds ago. It's very, very gusty and a bit wild in here at the moment, but we're all right. It's safe enough. It's just a bit noisy. just to the right of these red buoys, so we've just crept in between the buoys and the shore, and this is the entrance to the River Yealm. It's really rather nice, isn't it? Not too busy. Got this chap in front of me who's going very cautiously, so I'm going very cautiously as well. A few boats here moored, anchored. That's a last resort as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to have a see if I can find a buoy up the river. If not, I'll come back here because it's very sheltered. Considering it was blowing 30 odd knots as I came in, this is really rather a surprise. It just says 10 knots on the wind meter at the moment. There's the main river, and as expected, quite a lot of yachts. Well, the river was absolute madness down there, so I've come back up to the entrance where there are a few people already anchored, and I've dropped the hook. Whether this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not sure.
I'm happy to report I had a really quiet night here.
Well, this is a bit of a blow, just leaving the Yealm, and it's very, very light winds. And though it is coming round a bit south, most of it is dead on the nose, so we're heading at the moment towards Fowey, motoring, and hope the wind picks up a bit. Well, the wind has filled in a little bit. We've got 11 knots at the moment, so the boat's clipping along at about 3. And that's Plymouth down there. It's considerably quieter here than it is in the mouth of Portsmouth Harbour, but we're not going to visit today. Might do it on the way back, but we're off to Fowey, and at this rate we'll be there about mid-afternoon, I think, especially if this wind fills in a bit more. But lovely day. We really can't complain about the weather. It's just the wind's always in the wrong direction, and sometimes too much and sometimes not enough of it. But that's sailing. Well, this is Cornwall from the sea. We're slowly making progress towards Fowey. Up ahead you can see the day mark on the hill there. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. That's the day mark on Gribben Head. So we're about 2-3 miles away. Well, the day mark is very prominent now, and the harbour entrance is off to starboard from here. I can't quite see it yet. It's always a bit worrying going into a harbour, even more so when it's one you've never been in before. As you can see, lots and lots of moorings, and somewhere in amongst all this lot there are some visitors' moorings, so hopefully I'll be able to find them. Well, I've got myself an alongside visitor's berth, not the most salubrious one I've ever been to, but it'll do nicely. Looks very pretty over there, doesn't it? It looks like a radio amateur, actually. The great big antenna stuck up in the air there. And this is quite interesting over here. somewhat industrial, but as I understand it, that's loading China clay, Cornish China clay, into that boat, the blue one on the end of the jetty, and eventually that will leave. And this big area of water up here is the turning circle. This is where they turn the barges round. So might not look all that pretty, but it's quite interesting. Saying goodbye to Fowey. It's been a lovely trip up here. I really like it. It's really nice. Wonderful houses. They must cost a fortune. It's a bit rolly out here, but we've got 19 knots of wind and doing nearly 6 knots according to the log, so shouldn't really complain, but it is a bit lumpy, a bit rolly. It's getting better as we move further away from the shore. I think a lot of it was reflections off the rocks. The waves hit the rocks and then bounce back, and it gets very mixed, but it's settled down a little bit now, but still pretty rolly. Still will be all right, but we're clipping along really nicely now. Just passing a fishing buoy. Looks like the tide's a bit against us, but not seriously. It's going past this South Cardinal buoy, which has also got a bell on it. It's useful, isn't it? So we're clipping along really well. Here goes the lifeboat for some poor soul. Inshore. This is Dodman Point, or as it used to be called, the Dead Man, because it apparently looks like a coffin from a distance, and it does rather. Still pretty lumpy. Curiously, when it's windier, it's better. The boat doesn't roll so much. But we're chugging along gently, and unfortunately being overtaken by a few boats, which is a bit discouraging, but she's still doing very, very well, really. Dodman Point a bit closer. The wind's dropped away, but unfortunately the swell hasn't, and we're rolling horribly. So I've started the engine and I've got the mainsail sheeted in hard, which helps to stop us rolling. It's very uncomfortable out here, and I don't see any sense in, and I could do with charging the batteries anyway, so I've got an ulterior motive. So we're running under engine. This is Dodman Point. It doesn't look much, but you just get these big deep ones occasionally. It really rolls the boat, and it makes life very uncomfortable and hard on the sails and me. We're leaving Dodman Point behind, and the wind's picked up again. We've got 15 knots, which is excellent, and though the waves are still just as high, they're sort of behind us, and it's not quite so bad. So we're plugging along at about 4.5, 5 knots and getting across this bay reasonably well. We'll make Falmouth tonight without any trouble, I think. It's still pretty rolly, but somehow it's in a slightly different direction, and it's nowhere near as unpleasant. And we're doing around about 5 knots, a bit more over the ground, I should think, with a bit of tide under us. And I've just managed to eat something, so that's not so bad. It's not so bad. It's very warm. I've got a shirt on. My life jacket, of course. but just occasionally one comes up and just rolls with it. It's much nicer than it was this morning. We get round this point on the right, that's going to be the entrance to Falmouth, the River Fowl. Ships going, or sailing boats going in there already. I'm just hanging out here a bit longer because I don't want to run straight downwind. It's rolly and it's making life quite difficult. So when I get a bit closer, I'll jibe and we'll go up into the river on the other jibe. Hopefully it'll be nice and calm there, so I'll get the sails down. It's a very rolly, uncomfortable ride this has been, but we're here, no problems. Pretty much sailing straight into the harbour. The conical thing in the middle there marks a rock, and there's a red buoy to the right of it, and we leave that to our left. And there's the entrance to the harbour, the boats and things. Not that difficult to get into by comparison to some. Lots of room, much more room than there is in some places. I'll just sail a little bit further in, and then I'll round up into the wind and get the sails down. But we've made it, Falmouth.
Thanks for watching this far. Now it's confession time. I guess some of you are thinking, well, he makes it look so easy. Well, Falmouth had me lost for a while. You can see the blue deep water channel that winds its way up the harbour, and I intended to follow that and anchor in a quiet spot upriver. What I hadn't realised from my cursory check of the chart was that the blue channel is 50 to 60 foot deep, and it's very steep too. So if you leave the channel, you suddenly find yourself with a couple of feet under the keel instead of 50 odd. It was a busy afternoon when I arrived, and there were racing dinghies going in all directions, and I lost the channel buoys. There aren't that many of them anyway, and I couldn't find my way to back to the deep water channel, and suspected I wasn't even where I thought I was. So I pretty much went back to the entrance to check my bearings. A change of scale of the harbour chart hadn't helped, but eventually I did find my way upriver and moored safely on a mid-river pontoon. Lesson learned. Take a bit more notice of your chart, Dave. Well, that's this episode over. Thanks for watching, and a very special thanks to all of you subscribers and people who left comments. I feel like I've gained a few more friends. If you haven't already, please subscribe. See you on the next episode in a week or two. Bye!